Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Odd Tandem. My name is Bobby Julich, and over there in Germany, we've got Jens back from hanging off the side of a motorbike for a couple weeks at the Tour de France. Jensi, how was it, man?
It was as good as always. The way I try to put it is being on a motorbike in the race is almost like a comeback without the pain in the legs. So it's pretty good. You in there, you can smell the air, you can feel the wind, see, and you feel the quality of the surface, how the road bends, you feel the love of the fans, the passion of the fans. It is pretty fantastic, but also it's long days. You know, you got to go to the start line, got to be there like 2 hours before the riders show up, so 3 hours before the start basically. Then sometimes a 1, 2 or even 2.5 hour transfer, driving at 6 until 8:30, dinner at 9, you're basically in bed by midnight. But I'm not complaining. Also, one thing is you embrace life really hard because you actually know the chance is little, but the chance is there that behind the next turn, it is actually all over. So you embrace life really hard. It makes you feel alive.
Well, we're very happy that you survived. One question, though, because I used to drive the second car or when I was out motor pacing riders, like you said, I got the sensation and the fatigue, the mental fatigue of focus that I would have gotten in the bike race. I just didn't get the physical exertion. So, okay, my adrenaline was popping and everything was going crazy. But then once the race was over, I was exhausted. Was that the same for you? Once you got out of that bubble of all the racers and looking at all the fans, did that light switch just go off and you just feel exhausted all of a sudden?
Yes, absolutely. Like a tire, you losing air. But only if I'm in my room. When I'm out there, you go, okay, the day's work is done. Okay, just walk to the car. Somebody goes, hey, Jensi, shut up, Lex. And then, hey, I'm an entertainer. I'm like Freddie Mercury. I'm born, to entertain people. So I go, hey, here I am. I'm the Jensi. Even though you're like completely tired, have no energy. But, some of these people, they waited a year or 2 years to see the Tour de France. And then when they see you, at least you got to give them a smile or a little wave or a little handshake, right? So, but once, after dinner, I'm in my room. It's basically, I just have enough energy to brush my teeth. And then I be in bed and completely done and trying to recharge my batteries.
You're one of a kind, man of the people, Jensi. So just to let our viewers know, we had a little bit of technical difficulties today recording our guest, and I'll let Jens introduce the guest here after this, because of the European semifinal soccer or football match where Spain is playing whom, Jensi?
France.
Spain is playing France. So excuse us if we don't have the video portion of the podcast today because it was a little bit tricky trying to get internet connection.
Because we got about 500 million people living in the entire Europe, and probably 385 million of them were streaming to see the semifinal. So that's why I guess Europe-wide, the internet was just a little slow and caused problems of all kinds.
And our guest today, Jordi Meeus, was actually not only a great interview, but he had the game on behind him the whole time during the interview. So sit back and relax and listen to our great interview that we had with Jordi today. All right, here we are. Jordi Meeus, welcome to the Odd Tandem.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Man, here we are. The Tour de France is happening. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're doing right now.
Obviously, I'm not in the Tour. At the moment, I'm in Livigno, a little bit outside of Livigno in Trepale on an altitude training camp to prepare the second part of the season.
And Trepale is the town above Livigno, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the center of Livigno is around 1,800 meters of altitude, and where I am at the moment is 2,200 meters. So it's a bit more optimal for the best altitude gain, let's say.
And is it full on chock-a-block there right now with cyclists that or athletes in general?
It's quite busy at the moment. Yeah, a couple of teams are here. A lot of teams are also down in Livigno. But yeah, myself and a couple of other individual guys are here a little bit higher.
Do you by any chance see any other Olympic athletes, like runners training in altitude from different nations or national teams for different sports there as well, or is it just cyclists?
I think the Olympic team from Denmark is here from the track, in the same hotel as I am at the moment. And then I see quite some individual athletes. I think there are a couple of mountain bike riders. I also have seen some people running and doing the skates already. So I'm not sure if they go to the Olympics, but it could be well possible. Yeah.
Wow. So to our viewers and our listeners that don't know, Jordi won the final stage of the Tour de France last year on the Champs Elysee. Jordi, tell us a little bit about that stage, your memories from that stage.
Yeah, I remember starting from Saturday after the stage. It was a really long transfer. Going to Paris. I think we had 4 or 5 hours in the evening on Saturday night. So we arrived at 12 in the hotel. Then we still had to have proper dinner and everything. So then I rushed myself to bed as soon as possible. Then in the morning we had another 3 to 4 hour drive. And yeah, I remember it all wasn't ideal for a lot of guys. The tour was finished already. It was just yeah, let's call it the crit on the Champs Elysee. But yeah, for me it was the last opportunity to try to win a stage. And I remember also it was a bit of a strange feeling. It was my first tour I would finish. And yeah, then when the stage started, it was all new for me. The picture of the yellow jerseys with the teams and the green jersey and all of those things. And then from the moment we came closer and closer to the city of Paris, yeah, the atmosphere got more and more tensed. It was fighting for position, and then it was basically a roller coaster going to the Champs Elysee, doing the laps and preparing for a sprint. And yeah, also most of the images I remember is from video images or pictures that I've seen, because at that moment it was all a little bit of a rush and kind of a high I was in.
So to be really clear, many people call the stage on Champs Elysee the unofficial World Championships of the sprinters. I don't think there's a bigger win, or maybe not many bigger wins a sprinter can have. Jordi, that day you used just a normal bike, or you did bigger tires, smaller tires, less air pressure because of the little cobblestones, bigger, smaller chainring? Did you change anything on your bike, or it was just entirely identical like all the other days?
No, normally I ride a 55 in front. That day we changed to 56, the big chainring. Because yeah, we know with the cobbles it's better to have one gear bigger than to spin the legs a lot, with the risk of the back wheel that's jumping a lot. And we changed tire pressure slightly. We used the same tires. That were basically the only two things we've changed in.
Jeez, but I mean, you just said it. It was your first Tour de France, and you win arguably the most famous stage. But in your first Tour de France, you didn't know what to expect. You had to have suffered. And I'm curious not only about your feeling of achievement, but what did you have to suffer through to get to the Champs in the first place? Was there any 1 or 2 stages where you were just like, man, I'm going to bag this. I can't do it?
Yeah, actually, the first time I thought about this was the first stage already. I felt really bad, actually, I have to say. I don't know, there was something in the air there in Bilbao. The humidity was super high. And yeah, I remember I was quite in trouble breathing and getting enough oxygen in. Then I remember I was with Kev and I think 3 or 4 other Astana guys. they basically brought me to the finish line. And that moment I thought that it was going to be or a really long 3 weeks or a really short couple of days for me. Luckily, through the race, I developed a bit. And then the second moment I had this feeling was when my teammate Jai Hindley took the yellow jersey. It was up to us to lead the race, and I was trying to control the breakaway on the Tourmalet day. So I was riding all the way through the valley to Asper. Then on the bottom of the Asper, my job was done. I remember I was really struggling, holding up with the big bunch. I think it was only Kev and Caleb dropped at that moment. So a really small group at the beginning of the stage. And then I was really struggling all day. So Asper was really hard. And then we went up to Tourmalet. And then I think other climb where we had to finish. So that was super hard. But I knew it was from my work in the beginning. And other than that, of course, I was struggling a lot. But I wasn't the worst climber in the Tour. So that made it a bit more enjoyable, let's say.
I have been in the Gruppetto 1 or 2 times as well, of course. What I experienced, there's actually quite some camaraderie there, right? People help each other. Hey, you want a bottle, you need another power gel. Hey, I have whatever, another pair of gloves or rain jacket if it's raining. Is that still like this? That people, like, once they're all in the same boat and they just go on pure survival, they actually help each other?
Yeah, it's still like this. The first days it's a bit difficult because everyone tries to find his spot in the bunch, let's say. But after a couple of Gruppetto days, when you see familiar faces, then it's definitely still like this. If someone is thirsty but doesn't have a bottle from the team, for sure other guys will help him. Same with gels, or I don't know, all these things that make our lives a bit more easy.
I'm super interested to ask you about the mindset that you had. I know that your team has made some changes, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But you were on the long list for the Tour de France. You did the Tour de Suisse to get ready for the mountainous stages. What is it like to be on the other end of that phone when the team calls and says, hey, thanks for winning the last stage last year. Thanks for doing everything that you've done this year to prepare and be as good as you can, but we've decided to take somebody else. How was that for you?
I think we have to start really almost half a year back. So in December we have the team camp. There we already had the meeting about the discussion about programs. There they already were pretty straightforward that there was a really slim chance for me going to the Tour again, because as we all know, the team has Roglic now, and they really had one goal that was to win the GC of the Tour de France, and still is the goal, which I think it's still possible, by the way. But so I wasn't really preparing going to the Tour. The closer it came, the more the team let me know that I still was a reserve rider. That's also one of the reasons why I went to Tour de Suisse. So in case anything happened with one of the guys, I would go. But yeah, I have to say, in my mind, I was never really part of the A team that was going. Also because the team was quite clear about that. Earlier at the program discussions.
My question was a little lower down my list, but I'm gonna bring it up now. It's an idea. You can call it stupid. Feel free. It's an idea it came me over the last years. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a sprinter like you as the personal bodyguard for Primož? That Primož is like glued to your wheel. They tell you, look, Jordi, no sprinting at all, but you always have Primož on every flat stage. You have Primož on your wheel. You bring him safely into the last 5 kilometers or to the finish line. Because, you're a big, strong man. You demand respect. You know how to move to the peloton. And Primož behind you, wouldn't that be the safest place ever? Would that be a good idea? Or you go, nah, that's stupid. I'm a sprinter and I cannot do that job. What is your opinion about that?
No, I think it could definitely be an option. But on the other side, I think the guy who is in the best position doing that is a lead out for a sprinter, which we have Danny van Poppel in the team. He's used to keeping the space open for one extra guy to follow. As a sprinter, you don't care how small the gap is. You don't care if someone can follow you or not. Actually, you prefer someone not to follow you, so the other sprinters are not on your wheel anymore. While Danny is used to the opposite. He also wants to be in the front, but he knows he has to take care of one more guy behind him. I think I can do the job also, but in this case, I think Danny was the safer options, and then it's always hard for a team to select only 8 guys from a 30 guy roster. Which you need to have the right climbing legs, the right flat support legs. So yeah, for sure I want to go back to the Tour de France, but I have to say I wasn't pushing too much to go this year again. Also because it's not finishing in Paris this year, so that makes the pill a bit less bitter to swallow.
Very well put. Very well put. So you guys are up there training at altitude, living like monks. Are you actually planning your training hours so you can get back and watch the tour? Are you watching the tour at all? Are you paying attention to it?
For sure. That's why I started cycling, because I really love the sport, and I still do. It's getting a bit different when you're into this world yourself, but yeah, I try to watch the bigger races, especially the Tour de France, and yeah, they finish always quite a nice hour in the day for us. So mostly we leave around 10. If we have a really long day, it's 9:30, but we're always back in time to watch the finish, which is super nice.
And when you described us your day on the Champs Elysee, you mentioned your 56 chain ring. I have been the first 9 days on the motorbike for Eurosport at the Tour, and 55, 56 is the new normal. Why do you think is that? Do the sprints go faster and faster, or is it you don't have to push the 11, you can maybe do a 56, 57, 12 for a better chain line? Or is it so fast you need all the gears you can get?
Yeah, I wish it was just of the faster chain line, but all of the sprints I did were on the 11 in the Tour, so the pace is just so high. I think it's yeah, we all have the most aerodynamic bikes, the fastest suits, the fastest helmets. So yeah, the speed is just so high that you run out of meters, let's say, if you use a smaller chainring.
Well, you just mentioned that you're a fan of the sport. The Tour de France is one of the races that got you into it. You're watching. Let me tell you, 16 years into retirement, I get up every morning and I'm watching every stage of the tour. So I'm a super fan, even though I've been in the sport a very, very long time. And part of being a super fan and part of getting up so early in the morning was to see if Cav could win his 35th stage. And I know this is a podcast about you, but I'm very, very curious to hear what you think of Sir Mark Cavendish breaking Eddie Merckx's record. You being Belgian, what do you think about what happened on the 5th stage this year in the Tour?
Yeah, I think I speak for all of the sport fans in the world, all of the cycling fans in the world, that it's just really unique that he actually did it. I think the last 3 years of his career was only with one goal, that was winning this 35th stage in the Tour. And yeah, let's say he could win all the other races. If he didn't win a stage in the Tour, it was for nothing, let's say. So it's really crazy that he did it, and I think we can only have a lot of respect for the commitment he is still putting in. And I was together with him in Tour de Suisse. That was also with the goal to prepare the Tour, and I saw him struggling there every day in the Gruppetto, same as the other guys that were there. But you knew for him it was super special, because he also knows that it is last year, and then to actually win a stage in the Tour, he's 35th already. To win one is already super hard, and then to think that he won 35 is really crazy, actually.
So, Jordi, when are we going to see you back racing with a number on your back? What is the second half of the year look for you like? Is the Vuelta on your program or different races somewhere in between, some one-day classics?
The Vuelta was on my program, but together with the team, we decided to skip it. There's probably only 2 to 3 sprint stages in this year's Vuelta, which is not optimal for me personally. So we decided to start again in Tour de Wallonie, going to Poland, Tour of Germany, and then some one-day races in Belgium to try to really optimize the sprints and go for wins.
And what do you believe a sprinter can achieve training at altitude up there in Trepale, Livigno, doing all the Italian climbs down the other side? What is the name of the pass that goes the other way towards Italy, not towards the Gavia, but it begins with an F, I think.
The Forcala climb.
Forcala.
Yes.
So
And
the only place where you can ride flat is basically back and down on the lake, basically underneath the altitude or the avalanche shelter, right?
yeah.
So what sort of training do you do, and what do you sprinters hope to accomplish at altitude camps? I'm just curious.
I know that some sprinters don't like the altitude camps. They feel that they lose a little bit of explosiveness. For me, I don't see myself as a pure sprinter. I know I need to be fresh in the final to really be up there in the sprints. The goal is just to arrive fresher in the finals. And then of course it's important to don't lose the speed in the legs. But this period it's just about getting the hours done. Use some intensity to sharp the shape a little bit. I know I need a couple of moto pace sessions when I get home, but I always react quite well on altitude. So the goal is basically just to get the general shape up and then work on the sprints when I'm back at home in Belgium.
Would it be an option for you, Jordi, to do some weightlifting in the gym? Like just a short session, like 10, 20 minutes, just like high weights and like whatever, 3 times 5 reps, with high weights to keep the explosive power alive. And do you do weight training during the winter?
Yes, I do quite a lot of weight training during the winter. Once the races get started, it's a little bit difficult because you get so much muscle inflammation already in the races that you basically want to recover in between. But on moments like this, when I don't have a lot of races and it's a longer training period, then I definitely go to the gym, not really to build the explosive power again, but really to maintain it. That's also what I'm doing now.
And if you don't mind, what sort of exercises do sprinters do at altitude camps when they're just trying to maintain their strength?
In the gym, I'm basically just doing squats and step ups. But like I said, it's not to build up. So the sessions are really short, but just to get the muscles that they get used to the intensity again and to maintain it. The building up phase is more in the winter, where I do 3 to 4 times weight sessions. Now it's more 1 to 2. Then on the bike it's also just getting the fast muscle fibers activated with some VO2 efforts and some short accelerations.
So you're there with the team, right? You got a coach there, you got a massage therapist there, mechanics and everything, like the entire setup?
No, this is a personal camp, so it's own investment. Hopefully I get some return on it. But no, I like to be here. I have my girlfriend here. My parents are coming with a camper for a couple of days, so it's also a small holidays for them. And I know a masseur here. Cleaning the bike is a job I do myself after training. But it's nice. I like it. I always it's good for the morale here in Livigno. I like it here. I always return with a good shape. So I like to do it.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Is the weather okay up there right now? Because it's always kind
It
of
is.
touch and go from time to time in June and
Yeah,
July.
exactly. One day is not the other here. For example, 2 days ago it was raining all day, and today up here it's 19, 20 degrees, and in the valley it's up to 30. So yeah, we have to take it day by day. Overall, I think I was here 2 years ago. Then the weather was a little bit better, but yeah, we can't complain today. We did almost a 6.5 hour ride. Got quite sunburned, so was a good day.
Yes. So I don't want to get you in trouble here, but you are Belgian. Um, let's say on one of those rainy days where you have a day off the next day, um, during the off season, or hey, after you won the stage in Paris last year, what is your favorite Belgian beer?
I have to say I like Leffe. I'm quite of a dessert guy, so I like the more sweeter things. So if I drink one, it's mostly a dark one, a brown one, which are quite heavy. So I don't drink a lot of them. But yeah, a dark Leffe is always nice.
For our viewers to explain, a dark Leffe, some of them, they go up to 12%. That is a percentage like a glass of wine has. Just that the Leffe you drink in a half a liter glass. So it is strong beer, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a good choice, Jordi. I had a few of them myself. That is a good choice. Jordi, in this year's Tour de France, touch wood, we haven't seen too many crashes. Only 4 riders are forced to abandon. Why do you think is it that in this year's Tour de France we see, fortunately, not the big mass crashes? Is everybody getting smarter? Is it just pure luck? Or you think the organizers organize the race, the finish lines a little better?
That's quite hard to say. For sure, everyone is 100% focused in the tour, like always. The stress is super high, but I think also we cannot underestimate how hard the first few days were. I mean, when it was almost 40 degrees, quite hilly. Yeah, the gaps in the bunch are getting a little bit bigger. I think that could be one of the reasons why there are a little bit less crashes, but still, if you look at the television images, it's still super tight, and yeah, it's hard to say what the exact reason is. I saw a few crashes already. Luckily, not so bad. I hope it stays like this. But what the real reason is, because why there weren't too many mass crashes this year, it's really hard to say, I think.
Bobby, can I have a follow-up question here? Jordi, if you be a course designer or race director tomorrow, how would the perfect last 5 kilometers of a sprinter day look for you? If you had the freedom to decide the last 5, maybe 10 or 5 kilometers of a sprinter day, what would you do? How would it look like in a way that you think that's actually a good circuit or a good finish for us?
I think it would preferably be quite flat. So that's good. Definitely not downhill, because then the speeds are so high and everyone still wants to move up. It's also easier to move up if you come from the back out of the slipstream. So I think it should be flat, and it could be a small few bumps inside that the guys with the legs are in front, and we don't have these kamikazes who are there just to be there because they want to take risks. Yeah, and then for me, I think it's not bad to have a few wide corners inside, that the bunch gets a little bit stretched out, because we've seen quite a lot already that the last 7Ks are straight on a 4-lane road. And that makes it actually super dangerous, because everyone wants to come in the last moment. So let's say a couple of corners, and then yeah, the last, let's say 700 to 800 meters in a straight line. Let's say preferably a 2 to 3 lane road.
Well, back when I was racing, Jens raced a little bit longer, so maybe it was a little bit different from him. We only had the 1K rule. Then they moved it out to the 3K rule, and now it's like between the 4 and 5K rule. I remember being up there bouncing around right before the last kilometer, and a sprinter friend of ours, Robbie McEwen, looked at me and said, "It's about time to get you the heck out of the way. And I was just like, as soon as we hit that 1K to go kite, I was like, yes, Robbie, you're absolutely right. And just a little funny side story here. When we'd be getting ready for a climb and he'd be up boxing for position in the front, I got him back and I turned around and I said, hey, Robbie, it's time for you to get the heck out of here. But so what do you think of this elongation of from the 3K rule to the 5K rule? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it makes it safer? And do you think maybe that's one of the reasons why we're not seeing as many crashes?
Yeah, for me it's a good thing. I mean, they have to see it case by case. For me, it doesn't make sense to make the 3K rule now by definition a 5K rule. It also depends on the course, but it makes no sense to make the 3K rule inside of a 90 degrees corner where it's 3Ks. So there, I think it's good to make it a little bit earlier or sometimes a little bit later. Maybe I know they will not make it closer than the 3K rule now. But I think it's really good for safeness. You guys been in the bunch long enough to know that the climber just missed a little bit of explosiveness to be really short on the wheel, or sometimes the sprinters don't like it when they're there. So yeah, I think it's good to see it case by case, and it definitely will improve the safetiness.
While we talk about rules, there's a few measures the UCI is trying to implement and trying to test. One of them would be the yellow card system. So if, let's say, a sprinter or some rider early in the race misbehaves, it's a yellow card. And I don't know if they say, okay, 3 yellow cards is a red card and you get relegated or something, or you have to stay home for 5 days. I don't know what it will be. Do you think that's a good idea, or you go, nah, we only catch the people they caught on TV and we don't catch the ones they push in the peloton without the TV? You think it would help to make riding safer and riders would give more respect to each other because they're afraid of the yellow card?
I think it could definitely help, yes. But it's a really hard task to make let's say the border where it's time to give a yellow card, or let's say it's just below. For sure, if you get a yellow card, you will have immediately 10 situations where you say, okay, but then this guy also should have one. So it's really hard, but I definitely think that it makes sense to get some kind of rule like this. But yeah, then you also know if it's a three yellow card rule and you don't have one yet, that you can actually do something that is a little bit over the limit. So yeah, maybe it's also better to make it right or make it wrong. So you only have 2 options and not to make it halfway and get a yellow card. So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. That makes perfect sense. But Jordi, listen, I know nothing about sprinting. I was never even close to winning a sprint in my life. But, due to the drones, the TV coverage, the motorcycle coverage, and the armchair quarterbacks out there, it seems like we're having a lot more controversial finishes in sprints. And do you guys actually even have time? Because you're up there getting a lead out. It's 200 meters to go, 150 meters to go. You guys are maximum heart rate, glycogen empty, glucose down in the basement. You're not really thinking straight. And you have to make split-second decisions that could be the difference between winning and losing. How aware are you guys of all these rules they've put in and all the critique that some sprinters are getting recently? Isn't it just you're going on instinct at that time and it's happening at real time instead of being slowed down frame by frame? Like what are you thinking about when you're in that mix about ready to launch your sprint?
Yeah, it's basically a roller coaster you're in. It's true. Sometimes you get a reaction out of instinct. Most of the times, you have kind of a feeling if it was over the limit or not. But then you realize after the moment happened. So yeah, it's really hard, and it's also a hard rule to stay on your line in the last 200 meters. because if you're a sprinter that always wants to come really late out of the slipstream, you basically have to stay in the wheel of the guy in front of you. So yeah, it's always really hard. You don't have eyes on your back, so you don't know who's behind you, if it's on the left side of your wheel, the right side of your wheel. So it's super easy if you have the helicopter images, and it's definitely way harder if you're on the bike there yourself.
Actually, Jordi, I'm supposed to say hi to you from one of your sport directors, Bernie Eisel, who is my expert colleague here at Germany. We're working together all day long. So, say hi to Jordi. And Bernie actually had an interesting explanation about the sprinters earlier today. He said, the bike riders are all different people. Like, Bobby, you and me, we were people like in a sailing plane without the engine, like just tranquilo, floating in the air. And sprinters are like jet fighter pilots. They have a higher situation awareness, and I think they can absorb, they can process informations at least in the last kilometer quicker than actually us could. Would that be true? You think you are a little bit of a cooler head in the final than like as if whatever Bobby or me would get involved into a sprint? I always feel the sprinters have much more control and much more awareness. Okay, he's coming there. I see his wheel underneath my arm. I can feel the shadow of this rider coming up. Is it true, or is it just my idea?
I think one part of it is it's true, but for me it's also a matter of experience. If Bobby and yourself were in the situation of a sprint, or at least contesting for a sprint when let's say 150 times, you get the feeling, and the more sprints you do, the more experienced you get, the more action reaction you can do, let's call it. Every sprint is different, but on these high speeds, for example, if one guy goes on the right side and the wind is coming from left in the front, he most likely will get blocked. So if you still have a lot of legs left, you most likely will take the left side, and don't try to get the slipstream with the risk of getting closed. So for sure, I think sprinters are really, really sharp in these last couple of kilometers. You have it or you don't have it, but I think you can also learn it to a certain level.
And you have to have the power to do it. Like, the reason why, if I was there 150 times, no matter how much experience I got, I'd still get last in the sprint, was because my Pmax, my maximum power, was probably, I don't know, at my best, maybe 1150. Like,
let's put it that way. Jordi has more power in his right arm than we had in our legs.
so I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, especially the older you get. Like, if you see 1,000 watts for 1 second, you're like, oh man, I still got it. But what is your Pmax? Like, what is the biggest number you've seen for that 1 to 2 second sort of power?
I guess it's a couple of months ago. I'm not on the same sprint level now because also of the hard classics and everything, but I know I was aiming for 1800. I didn't quite make it, so I was 1780 something ish, but close to 1800. Yeah.
Oh, so 1800, you would have been happy. 1780 ish, you're like, man, I could do a little bit better. I'm happy to go over 1,000 watts.
I was still happy, but I'm always trying to go for the next goal. So when I was hitting 16, I thought, okay, 17 would be nice. And then I was first going to 1650. Then I was hitting 17, and then I thought, let's try to go to 18. But at one moment you also reach your maximum, and then it's just a matter of maintaining it over a longer time.
What I guess standing still means moving back because everybody else is moving up, right? So it's a good thing that you always push for more, better, and higher. Hey, Jordi, maybe it's a difficult question. What do you think is more difficult? You have absolutely golden legs and feel unbeatable, but your team messes up the sprint lead out. To forgive them. Or the other way around. The team delivers you in the perfect position and you don't win. And they have to you have to talk to them. What is more difficult? To forgive them for messing up the lead out, or to tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I messed it up. You guys were great, but I messed it up?
I think it's easier to. Yeah, it's a really hard question.
I know.
Uh, yeah, depends. If you're really the top favorite and you don't deliver, it's always a really, yeah, really sad feeling, let's say, because not only your teammates but also the whole staff, the whole sport director group, the sponsors, they're there for you. So it's really a lot of pressure. I think it's easier to forgive the team if they were not there than to have to live with the fact that you were not ready or not fast enough, not good enough. Simply because just of the fact that you still have the feeling and the morale that you would have definitely won if you have golden legs. While if you're there getting beaten, it can be quite hard mentally for a sprinter, especially, I think.
Yeah, the mentality of you sprinters is just unbelievable. But a little side story, I was a worker when I was on a certain team, and I will not name the sprinter that I was working for. But I would ride, or we would ride for 200 kilometers on the front, and he'd get second, and he would blame us, like, you guys rode too hard at the start. I'm like, well, we were out there for 200K. You could have told us to slow up. And I'm trying to think, maybe we didn't have radios back then. It was maybe a little bit too early. But this same guy, when we would ride 200 meters on the front and he'd win, we were like his best friend. And, oh man, there was something that I'm like, I know the risk that you guys take and the commitment that the team puts forth to make sure that you're in the front. And hey, man, if you win, that's great. But like, if you get second or third, hey, you tried your best. But that was frustrating to me, of sacrificing myself and most of the team and having that happen, and basically pulling for 200 meters and having him win and act like he was, that we were the best teammates on the planet. So, it's just crazy how that mentality of the sprinter, an inch, a millimeter, and you win or lose. And we've seen so many close finishes as of late. But, today we had a rider, Jasper Philipsen, who has been getting second a lot, been getting in trouble a lot, and then he wins. Is there that little switch that once you're struggling and you get that win, that all of a sudden, like, things get a little bit easier, at least mentally, from a sprinter standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. With sprinters, you see a lot if they have the right momentum in a stage race. That most of the times one win gets two gets three. So it's definitely, the first one is definitely the hardest one, especially for Jasper. He's a close friend of mine. We live pretty close together. In winter times when we're both at home, we basically train on a daily days together. So yeah, he came into the Tour with a lot of pressure. Then to finish second a couple of times was pretty hard mentally for him, I think, after last year Tour de France, winning 4 stages in the green jersey. So yeah, always when you're on that level, you think it's your standard level, but then when you look back on it, or when you're just few percent off, you think, I should have enjoyed it more. So I'm really happy for him that he won again. And also on the sprinting side, he does quite some tricky moves, but I can assure you that it's just out of his reflexes, and by heart he's a super good guy. And it's definitely not to flick someone. It's just that's just the way he is. He's a super nice guy, but sometimes he's just such a pure sprinter that he just sees his own line, let's say, and he forgets the environment a little bit, I think.
Well, in his defense, from what I have seen, I can back up what you said. He is not mean or on purpose trying to crash somebody. Might be wavering around a little bit, but it's never clearly, that's a red card, you out. It is always, it's just okay, but wow, but it's still okay. But Jordi, an easier question now. From all the stressing and sprinting, what do you do to relax? You do Netflixing, you read books, or you listen to music, or take a walk around the lake. What do you do to relax and to ease your mind a little bit?
Yes, I watch quite some Netflix or just some Flemish series. It's always nice when you're a long time away from home in a different country. Also, when I'm with the team and it's all English speaking we do. It's nice to go to the room and listen to the mother tongue, let's say, on series. So that's something I like to do. And actually, I bought a drone when I arrived here. So I'm making some very nice videos in the mountains here. So basically, I've been flying all day every day for a couple of minutes. So that's also something I like to do at this moment.
And with the drone, are you looking at a monitor, or do you have like those goggles that kind of come down over your eyes?
No, I saw them. Maybe I will get them also, but so far I just have a controller with a small screen in it, and it surprises me how well it works.
I have one more question, because you kind of alluded to it with your team. You know, the team has recently got a new sponsor. We all know what Red Bull is. But to our US-based listeners and viewers, what is Bora and Hansgrohe? What is Bora Hansgrohe as a sponsor?
Bora, they started with how to say in English. In the kitchen, you always have the steam from the cooking. They started with the extraction inside of the cooking plate, let's say. So you don't really have this air sucking thing above, which makes the aesthetic of your kitchen way nicer and way cooler. Over the years, they have developed to more kitchen products. They have an oven now. They have some teppanyaki plates in their assortment. And Hansgrohe, they have basically all of the things for in your bathroom. So water tubes, all of these things.
The Bora actually is pretty cool. It sucks the steam from cooking down and it disappears downwards. It's pretty cool actually how it works. I have seen a few commercial videos of that. It's pretty cool, isn't it? And now, Jordi, put the hand to your heart. Do you have a Bora piece at home? You don't have to answer.
I would like to have one. Not yet, but for sure it will come. I'm really fan of the products. Every year we have the photo shoots, and it just works super well. I don't say this because I have to say it, but it's really nice, and it's definitely a plus for your kitchen.
Jensi, do you remember when we had a sub-sponsor, I think it was Italian, called Nibali, and it was also kind of like faucets, handles, all this stuff. And I think it was even Basso was building a house at that time, and he had that. Do you remember the name of it? It wasn't Nibali, like the rider, but it was kind of Nobili.
Yeah, I think Nobili. Yeah, that was probably the same kind of company, correct.
Yeah, so like you just kind of assume, like I would assume that you have a giant freezer or refrigerator full of Red Bull now, right? Like they sent you a big refrigerator full with Red Bull, right, Jordi?
We actually we had already in the team buses quite some Red Bull since 2 years. From the moment the team signed Anton Palzer, was already he was one of the guys that was riding with a Red Bull helmet in the bunch. So since then, we were already a little bit more familiar with the Red Bull cans in the buses. But now when we we want something at home, I think it's not a problem.
Hey Jordi, something I noticed immediately when you came onto camera, the suntan on your head. Question 1, what does your girlfriend say to that? And question 2, how do you explain that to people you meet on the street? Let's say you go and want to buy some baguettes in the morning in a bakery. How do you explain that to the people in line with you?
Actually, not one of them asked me where does it come from. Sometimes I see people looking a little bit strange because also in my neck I have the thing for tightening the helmet, which you see quite obvious. So sometimes I see them watching me, and I see at their faces that they think it's quite funny or strange. But actually no one has asked me so far. And yeah, my girlfriend isn't the biggest fan of it, I think. But yeah, when we go for a coffee in the afternoon, I try to get tent a little bit more so you don't see it that much anymore.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, Jordi, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your off time up there in Livigno. We really appreciate talking to you, and we can't wait to watch how that altitude training works for you in the races that you mentioned. Good luck for the rest of the season, and thanks again for coming on the Odd Tandem.
No worries, guys. Thanks for inviting. Was a pleasure being in, and we stay in touch.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. There'll be loads more content popping up here, including more great interviews with top guests like Jordi. Keep dropping your questions for us in the comments, and check our description below to find us on social media and Patreon to support this channel.